So in general, the ranking that we used here is the SS tier is the absolute top. It is incredible value, has a lot of longevity, if not just infinite longevity for all players, no matter what your playstyle is, operation level, things like that. It's really hard to fit a lot of things in there, but that's the scale that we use, both ourselves and Deuce. The S tier is for anything that's a great value, longevity for all players, but not necessarily incredible. Your A tier is good value, longevity for most players, not necessarily all. B tier is okay longevity and value for most players. C is niche value for certain types of players or for a certain aspect of the game, and has that same level of longevity where it's just while you're in that niche, it's going to help you out. D is meh. It's not horrible, but it's not something that we think that most players should really be bending over backwards trying to get. And the F tier is just not worth the grind or the money. Only get them if it's like being given to you basically completely free. Otherwise, not really worth it at all. So now that we've set the stage, we're going to go hop in here and show you how we have right here in November of 2022 at BHD8 Gaming ranked every single prime research that's in the game right now. Okay, so the very first thing that we're going to do, this is the second video that's coming out today, and we still stand by our initial best primes in the game, myself and Sinep, that is. So we're going to go ahead and drag our Prime Syndicate XP up to the top tier, because that is just a single button press that you're going to be able to do to leverage this purchase. There are some things that dilute this quite a bit in the game. If more of those were to come out, then probably we drop this down a peg, but right now we still feel fairly confident that this is the best, if not the best, one of the best primes that you can get in the game. We're also going to go ahead and drag up here Sinep's Swarm Refinery. He loves that thing. He's at operations level 48, 49, something like that, I believe. And we had a discussion about if you were to pick this up as early in your gameplay as possible, I think it's around operations level 17, something like that. When you first build the Franklin and you're doing your swarm dailies every single day, you as a new player are going to get 6 times the amount of resources and tokens every day that we had on our way up to the level that we're at. So your lifelong stockpile of your resource tokens is going to be pretty dang good compared to what we have. We think it's hard to overstate how valuable that is to newer players specifically. So when we're ranking these, we're looking mostly at what you would get if you were to pick this up as early as it's offered to you. Yes, some of these you'll go ahead and pick up free to play. We'll have a special banner on those as we go through here. They will have a little bit less value for you by the time that you're actually able to pick them up free to play, because you won't have had those very early levels where they really are doing their heavy lifting available to you, but they still have some value. So when you see these here, even if they have a free to play banner, this is from the mindset, for us at least, that this is when it's first offered to you as a player. Does it have a lot of value? Does it have a lot of longevity when you could first pick it up in the game? With that said, we have added 2 things to the SS tier, which are probably not surprising to anybody, because while we were working with Deuce to sort out kind of how we felt about all these, having our discussions, Sinep had a really great question. If a player was limited to just one $100 spend in the game, what would we recommend that they go ahead and pick up? So it would be really hard to not bring the things that we recommended all the way up to the SS tier, and that would be your prime survival skills. Reason being, that is going to affect every aspect of your gameplay for pretty much forever. Even if more things go into your officer stats, it just doesn't hurt to have extra stats for all your officers. Then you can free them up, move them around. You don't have to have as many officers on some of your ships. You can go ahead and supercharge some of your officers that will scale off of a particular ability, your attack, defense, or your health. So being able to do that, especially earlier on in the game, is incredible. So we're going to go ahead and bring our prime survival skills and also our prime officers, because it is the exact same thing. You'll just be able to get it free to play a little bit later in the game. However, your prime survival skills right now is currently not attainable for your players free to play. So if you were going to get just one, we recommend to purchase prime survival skills. Reason being, there are some reasons that you would dilute these other 2, we admit, at this point in the game. Syndicate XP, there's other ways to do it. They are not completely passive like this one is to go ahead and get your Syndicate XP. Swarm Refinery, there's a lot of higher ops players that have weighed in and said that it just doesn't have a lot of value to them. However, there's not really anybody that we spoke to that says that your prime survival skills, prime officers eventually lose any kind of value whatsoever. So we are adding them to this. That is all that we put on this SS line. So for myself, and I think this is where we're going to start to diverge pretty quickly from Deuce, I think it's extremely important for a player to go ahead and pick up this prime away team extension, because especially if you're free to play, the quicker you can go ahead and pick this up. If you weren't going to spend a lot of money in the game, having that extra slot available every single day for you to be able to get the mission that you're actually working towards for any reason, having a way to go ahead and shove even common officers that you never use and give them some sort of value for you, that makes a lot of sense to me. I'm going to put away team extension slot to give you one extra opportunity at any kind of mission every single day for your away teams, actually twice a day every time that it resets every 12 hours. That is going to sit at the S tier for me. The next big thing would be really hard for any player to argue with, I think. Stella efficiency, even with there being some sort of an efficiency mechanic that was added to the Bajoran faction store, Stella efficiency, S tier for me. The Outlaw tree you just can't ignore, and your Stella efficiency is going to get you the ability to build and scrap your Stellas twice as quickly so that you can keep burning through that tree much faster. That's pretty much a no-brainer for us. The big thing for me as well, Borg rewards. I've had this for a very long time. I'm operations level 43. I get daily use out of this. It's really hard to ignore the doubling of those faction credits that you get out of the Borg refinery. I get 600 of the faction credits on top of the fact that I'm going ahead and getting my independent credits and things like that. I use my Borg refinery every day. I'm still getting use out of it. S tier for me very easily. The next one's on our list that actually made it up here. Credit to Deuce for helping explain the value of this, but your battleship manufacturing, explorer manufacturing, and interceptor manufacturing are all S tier as well for us, just because if you were to build these ships, it takes forever to get the parts for you to be able to continuously improve them so that you can progress further in the game. Once you get into G4, things start to slow down tremendously. You're starting to need your common, uncommon, rare, etc. ship parts instead of just the commons like you would have to deal with in your G3 area and G2. So you can be sitting here with all the gas or whatever to be able to tier up your ship and be ready to move on, but without having your uncommon or rare ship parts, you're just stuck there. You can't do anything with it. You can't improve your ship. You can't get any stronger, and that really is not fun. So we went ahead and moved all three of the warship stuff up to the S tier. We did choose to put the survey manufacturing at the A tier, reason being that we don't value our miners as much in the game. As long as you have one decently tiered, you can pretty much do what you need to do for your dailies and stuff. We're not really big, heavy miners in the alliance that we're in here. Anyways, our playstyle is not heavy into mining. So for us, that's still an A tier. That's still pretty high up, but it's not as necessary as your warships being able to be big and strong to be able to go tackle all your daily hostile kills, things like that. This next one's another no-brainer for me. Active nano probes refining is an A tier. Even if you're the luckiest person on the planet and you get like 5 of 11, 6 of 11, one of these really great Borg officers, even if you have all the independent credits, even if you have all the badges that you need to be able to level them up and the officer XP, you're still going to need your active nano probes to be able to work on these officers. So it makes a lot of sense to be able to get those at double the pace out of your Borg refinery. Your Borg officers are still extremely valuable right now at November 2022, which is also part of why we left the survey manufacturing at the A tier. Is your Borg officers with full synergy are really going to help supercharge your surveys. It's not as important to go ahead and be tiering up those surveys as much. Of course, argue with us in the comments all you want to. We love to hear what you have to say. This next one here that is also an A tier for us is 𝘂𝗶𝘁𝗵. Initially, this was not one that was rated that high for me. However, I was convinced many players will get a lot of value out of less trips out there, especially because right now, operations level 43, we just had a battle pass event yesterday, if you're seeing this video, that required you to go hit those exchange hostiles. I filled up all my cargo easily before I completed that mission. I just sat out there wasting a bunch of the loot because I was just trying to get my hostile kills. Would be kind of nice to not have to go out there when I do need the eclipse security codes again and have to go hit them and then come back and hit them and come back. It'd be nice to go ahead and have a bigger cargo hold to be able to hit those with. So I do see a lot of value in getting the Stella cargo hold increase. Another high priority here would be the repair speed. You can get it free to play. If you go ahead and purchase for it though, you're not really going to regret that you can go ahead and repair your ships a lot faster. That's going to take you a lot less of your repair speed ups or latinum, whatever it is that you use to do most of your repairing. And that's going to affect every single ship that you have. In that same vein, reducing the cost to repair up your ships is really nice as well. So we're going to go ahead and drop that up there too, because every time you take a ship out and hit anything with it, it gets scratched. You're going to have to repair it. So it's nice to go ahead and reduce the cost of that. If you play the game, your ships are going to get banged up. I initially rated these lower as well, but I am convinced now that your 4-star crystal, gas, and ore refinery are worth it because you're going to be bottlenecked in the 40s for a very long time once you're in the G4 territory. So the earlier you can go ahead and pick these up, even though the refinery is not this giant font of materials like a lot of people think that it is, a lot of your materials are going to come from your events, your battle pass, things that you do daily in the game. That's very evident to me based off of the huge lull that we feel in between battle passes where you're not getting a lot of those materials. If your refinery really was helping that much, then it wouldn't hurt as bad when you were in between battle passes when we don't have a lot of events going on. However, it does help tremendously to get an extra refine for the same cost out of those every single day. That's why we've went ahead and moved them up here. Now, same thing for your G5, but a little bit differently. If you're going to be able to make it up to G5 territory, being able to get extra out of your G5 refining totally makes a lot of sense if you're going to be able to get up there and try to be competitive whatsoever. And that is the most competitive bracket in the game right now. So having that little bit of an edge makes a lot of sense. Another A tier for me is your prime research speed. I am researching constantly. Every one of my queues has to be doing something at some point in time. I never leave one of those empty. There's always some sort of research to be doing in the game. Makes a lot of sense to be able to do that and reduce your speed ups that you have to use or your latinum cost if you're trying to go ahead and rush through those. there's so much events that happen in the game based off of researching things, completing that research, and being able to do so with less speed up so that you can use them for other things or with less latinum. Totally a no-brainer for me. And if we went ahead and put ship repairs up here, then we're going to go ahead and put repair costs up here as well for the exact same reasons. That's going to wrap it up for us on the A tier. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to the B tier. This may surprise a lot of people. We did put your prime damage at the B tier. It's only a 100% increase to your base. It's not huge. Early on in the game, when you first get access to this especially, then it's going to be pretty much the only thing that's going to be giving you extra to your damage. It is just to your base. It makes way more sense to go ahead and tier up your ships than to rely on this research alone to be able to help you go ahead and tackle things, but it is doing something. Now, it falls off very quickly. That's why we left it at B tier. It could probably be another peg or two down, honestly, but we wanted to put it up there because it seems kind of crazy to just not pick it up on your way through, since you can do so free to play pretty easily. So a huge one here, actually, which does make me feel like damage could be dropped down quite a bit because it doesn't feel like damage is at the same level as protected cargo here. Being able to get that increase to your protected cargo, yes, there's officers that do a lot of that, which is why it's at B tier and not any higher, but it is technically free to play. Once you hit your treasury level 40 and you start getting those prime particles every single day, you can go ahead and pick this thing up about, what, 3 or 4 months. Then you can go ahead and pick this research up in the game. There's not really any reason not to go ahead and get extra protected cargo to keep those OPC hunters away or whatever. It's just a good idea to have extra protected cargo. Now, this is a new one, and I'm putting it at the B tier specifically because I think this is great. Many people would probably put it a lot higher, but I feel like if you're going to go ahead and pick this thing up, you have to be careful, because if you're not paying attention to what your current reputation levels are in the game, you can put yourself in a bad position. Now, if you're just going to go ahead and consistently be donating to your alliance or whatever to go ahead and hit these daily faction goals and get double the amount of reputation and your faction credits, which is the big draw to this here, is that you're getting double those faction credits. It's pretty good. It does cost you a lot of resources to hit that. If you're punching too high up because of this, meaning that you are outpacing your reputation for what you're able to do for your dailies, then it's really going to inhibit your ability to get those extra speed ups for doing your faction daily hostile grinding. It can put you in a position where you're not even able to do your mining if it requires you to do like G4 mining and you don't have access to territories that have G4, because you won't be able to get out to deep space to do a lot of the mining there as well. I caution players, if you're going to pick this up, you should really be watching your reputation like a hawk. Try to keep it in a manageable range for you, and do not be afraid to stick a knife in the back of whichever one of your reputations that starts to get out of hand so you can bring it back to a manageable level. Sure, it's pretty easy to do that by going and attacking their surveys, bring it back down there, but a lot of players are not going to be motivated to go out there and grind that all the way back down to a manageable level every single day. That's why it's a B tier for me, is because it does come with a little bit of responsibility if you do make that purchase. Now, another B tier for me is critical hit damage. This is not a huge buff to your critical hit damage, but critical hit damage is one of the only things that's multiplicative in the game, and this is across the board. Seems to me like that has a lot of value to a lot of players. If you're going to be firing a weapon and it critically hits, then you're going to do more damage across the board. Seems like a good one here. Now, I did put the 3-star crystal gas and ore refining at the B tier here. You do pick them up free to play. You only got a 60% buff when they went back and did the refinery update not too long ago to your G3 territory. It's going to take you a while to get through here no matter what. And again, the refinery is nobody's friend, even with those buffs. A lot of your materials are going to come from your events. It's still not a bad idea to go ahead and pick them up free to play, because you will be able to still get use out of them before you are into G4 territory. Even if you're in G4 territory, when you pick them up, you'll still be able to grab those materials to help you build level 26 ships that you're going to build in scrap so that you can get more G4 materials. Not a bad thing, but it's not the penultimate thing here for me. And I'll stick build speed down here. The reason is you're still going to get a lot of use out of it. It's nice to go ahead and reduce those big build timers. However, there are some days where I don't have anything in my build queue whatsoever because I don't really need it. A lot of times I would just go ahead and hurry up and complete a build, or they do have such a long timers to begin with that I just don't touch it for a week or two. But my research is almost daily having something turned through there. The research makes more sense to be at A. To me, build speed is a B. This is where we start getting into more niche things here at the C level. That's why we put Badar Cargo here, is when you first pick it up, almost every player can benefit from it. A little bit later on, only your OPC hunters are going to get some use out of it. And then there's some servers where you just really don't get an opportunity to OPC hunt anyways because they have so much war going on. So depending on what your exact situation is on your server, what the environment is there, this could be moved up or down pretty drastically. This could be a complete F tier because you're never able to go farm any of those probes, or you're never going to be able to OPC hunt because your server is just in total war, or it could be way up towards the top because you have a 𝘂𝗶𝘁𝗵 type server where people are constantly OPC and you could be sitting this thing out all day long picking up all sorts of candy. So for me, C, because it's just kind of middle of the pack. not knowing what your exact situation is. Next one here is prime capture node damage. This is again is a niche type thing. It's only going to help you while you are on a capture node in territory space. I don't like territory at all. I really don't take any part in those. My alliance may or may not like me for that, but I just don't have time to set my calendar and make sure that I'm there to play the game. Whether somebody shows up, doesn't show up, whether they need me or not, I really don't take part in those. But it is free to play sourceable on a long enough timeline. I will pick it up. I don't have it yet. That's kind of my spiel on it. The next one here is Prime Platinum Refinery. This is an interesting one because by the time that you can get it free to play, it really doesn't help you too terribly much. But if you are mostly a free to play player, then it doesn't hurt to pick it up and get you a reliable source for your 𝘂𝗲 parts and of course for some daily Latinum. Every player is going to pick this up at some point in time in their journey, but if you do go ahead and spin to get it as early as possible, then this has a lot more value. This could almost be an F tier if you get it free to play because it's just almost useless to you. Maybe a D tier, honestly. But if you're going to go ahead and pick this up as early as you can, it's going to supercharge the ability to upgrade that 𝘂𝗲, get you to where you could probably scrap one a little bit sooner, especially if you're just knocking it out of the park with your Latinum rushes on Mondays, which will allow you to get to that 𝘂𝗶𝘁 in a free-to-play manner a little bit faster if you can go ahead and max and scrap a 𝘂𝗲. But again, C tier because it's really going to depend on your unique situation. The next one is critical hit chance. A lot of cases, your officers are going to give you a big critical hit chance boost, like your Honor Guard Worf. For a certain amount of rounds in combat, he's really going to help you out, usually before the combat ends anyways, and he's going to give you so much more than what you're going to get from this prime here. It's not necessarily worth it to go ahead and pick this up. Sure, it is across the board, not just for PvP, but in a lot of instances, like Khan's not really going to benefit from this because it's only going to start you from that base. You're going to build up to a 100% crit chance on a long enough battle anyways. Cisco is going to help you do the same thing if it goes enough rounds. You're going to go ahead and get guaranteed crits, so whatever level you start at is not the most important. It does have some sort of value. Prime piercing. Piercing stats are okay in most instances. I did speak with Deuce on this. He says that the big thing is that your 6 of 11 is going to really be able to get supercharged by this. So if you have a really high level 6 of 11, this might be worth going ahead and picking up because he's really just going to have a heyday with it. Otherwise, it's still going to be something you'll pick up free to play at some point in time, but there are many things on the list, as you can see, that we recommend before this. Next up, we're going to go ahead and put Prime Materials Extractor at the C list. It's your G3 version that's going to go ahead and give you a plus 100% to your mining speed. It's 100% is not a huge deal. Your officers are going to help a lot. Just level up those surveys if you want faster mining speed instead of spending money on this prime in most cases. That's pretty much our take on that. It doesn't hurt to have this, especially if you get it earlier on. Your surveys will mine things at a faster rate, but really your officers are going to be the big deal there and just tearing up that mining laser. And now here, a lot of people know that I have not got the Mantis yet. I'm going to get it free to play. I'm not picking it up in any spin manner, so I don't really know how these work at all. I did rely heavily on Deuce explaining this to me. Actian Harvester is going to double the loot that you get with your Mantis when you go blow up those Actian hostiles. A lot of those are bugged in a lot of cases. My initial reaction, because so many of those are bugged, was to put it completely at an F tier, but if that's all fixed, then the fact that every single time that you take this out, which you'll probably do for a long time, because once you finish all of your Strange New Worlds officer sourcing through your Mantis loop, then you will still go ahead and continue to do that Mantis loop pretty much ad nauseum because your Syndicate XP you can get from there. And if you were to ever, for some reason, max out your Syndicate XP, if you're a player that spends that much, you may not be watching this tier list anyways. If you don't spend a lot to go ahead and max that out and you hit it for some point, almost guaranteed they're going to move that goalpost again. I would expect that cap to just pretty much continuously increase. So there's almost no point in time where you won't stay in this Mantis loop to go ahead and get this. These Actian Harvesters will give you double the loot from those hostiles, which should, in theory, have the amount of time that you're out there. Maybe more so because you don't have to warp out there as often. I know that that's gated by how many tokens you have, but if you can go ahead and do what you want to do on one token instead of having to go out there twice, that's going to save you an additional amount of time, not just from the hostiles, but for your warp timer. So to me, C tier, it's fairly niche. You have to have a Mantis to go ahead and get it. Of course, it won't let you buy it if you don't have the Mantis. But if you do own the Mantis, you're going to embrace that loop. It is really a good thing to have. The next one here, I do Alliance hop quite a bit. We have videos on that as well, but I'm going to put Alliance reputation at D. Reason being, you're going to get 300% of your Alliance reputation from just the armadas. Most of my reputation, I believe, is coming from when I spend the chests in the Alliance store. So if you don't move alliances at all, this isn't going to help you really at all. Or if you're completely capped out on your research, 𝘂𝗶𝘁's not really been forthcoming on putting a lot of research in that tree. So there's not a huge value for picking this thing up right now. Nothing seems like it's gated behind like an exorbitant amount of Alliance reputation to go ahead and unlock anyways. So right now, this one just doesn't have very much value to me at all. Only for those Alliance hoppers that are heavy and are constantly switching from alliances and going to go hit some of those Cardassian Cardassian Armadas really quickly to try to get up again to a certain level. Doesn't really make any sense to me to go ahead and pick this up. Now, Armada damage, I'm going to stick at the D rank just because it is only going to give you plus 100 to your damage and only while you're in an Armada. There's so many other things that you can do, like just pop an 𝘂𝗀𝗶𝘁 or something like that, instead of trying to just eke out a little bit more to your Armada. Having the right crew, not just for you, but everybody else in the Armada, should help way more than having this research unlocked. Maximum warp range sounded really good to me, but after speaking with Deuce, usually by the time that you're going to get this unlocked, you're going to be getting close to those super conduits anyways. It's going to give you shorter warp timers just naturally in the game, so it's not 100% necessary to go ahead and pick up this research. Damage versus players, I'm going to put it D because it's extremely niche. If you're not a PvPer at all, then you're really not going to get any advantage out of this. If you're a heavy PvPer, then you're probably extremely competitive, and any little edge that you can get over your competition for people at your level, you're going to go ahead and leverage this. But in most cases, if you're a heavy PvPer and you're not fighting somebody who's also a heavy PvPer in your range, you're either going to get stomped and this won't matter, or you're going to be doing the stomping and again, this won't matter. So for me, this is a D tier to go ahead and pick up. Now, early on in the game, when you first get access to this, especially if you are early in a server lifecycle or you have really heavy territory battles, then maybe this would help you a lot. But for me, D tier, because it's just going to affect PvP. And a lot of that is crewing, or now there's things that will buff you, debuff you, 𝘂𝗀𝗶𝘁, all sorts of things that are really hard to take into consideration. So I don't know that this has as much value now. I'm going to put rogue credit yield there as well. You'll get the rogue credits through your rogue faction store. Sounds really good. There's not a lot that you're going to do with those, but eventually you'll max out all the officers. You'll start gaining more of these rogue credits than you really know what to do. You're going to pick it up free to play. Eventually, it's not really worth you spending to go ahead and grab. But I could be wrong. Again, comments help me out. Now, your cloaked racketeer is very interesting. It's pretty much the only thing that gets given to you. Deuce and I had a conversation about how you still get this, because when the battle pass came out for cloaking, anybody who completed the battle pass got this token for free to unlock this node. I think that you still get it if you just get to operations level 26. I don't remember if that's the case, so somebody please help us out in the comments below. Is it a free gift that you get when you build a ship that's cloakable? Is it something they give you now in operations level 26? We're not entirely sure how you source that token that you need to get this, but there's not any cost as far as we know associated with picking this thing up. It's only going to double what you get out of your cloaking dailies. You won't be doing those every single day on a long enough timeline that, like, I don't do those every single day now, unless I just really want those 5 points to go towards my final chest. A lot of those really kind of drop off the further tier that you get up, or just minimal benefits. The initial ones are great, but you'll get those just by doing your cloaking dailies without having to have this prime, if it's even something that you can avoid in the game. Cloaked Warfare is going to give you an increase to your damage only when you are cloaked, which is great, but it requires tetch rounds to cloak. So that's kind of one of those things where this doesn't help you if you can't cloak your ship. If you're on a ship that either can't cloak or you don't have the tetch rounds to do it, not going to help you. So this is very niche. We're going to put it at the D tier. Prime defense is not completely useless, so we're not going to put it in the F tier. That leaves us with just the D tier to go ahead and stuff that in. Armada vulnerability, by the time you get this, you're way later on in the game anyways. And again, it's only affecting your Armada. It's not a big deal for us. So we're going to go ahead and keep this at the D tier. Now, prime material extraction, we're going to put it at D. This is the exact same thing as that prime materials extractor, but you can get this one at operations level 30. I think you have to be level 40 to go ahead and unlock this. It's the exact same thing, but the cost difference is ridiculous. And again, you're going to have probably materials extractor if you're willing to pick this one up. You're going to get benefit out of it earlier on in the game. You're going to leverage all of your officers. You're going to be tiering up your surveys. You can pop 𝘂𝗀𝗶𝘁, all sorts of things that make this one, by the time that you get your hands on this one as well, way less valuable. And again, relying on Deuce's knowledge here, your synthetic nitrium refining is going to basically increase the speed that you're able to build up that mantis, which means that it does have a expiration date on how useful this is. Once you have a fully tiered mantis, you're not getting any use out of this anymore, no more benefit, hence the D tier. And that's about it. The rest of these, we did go ahead and rank everything, so anything else you see here, we're going to bring up to the F tier for different reasons. Agile scrapping, there's not a lot of benefit to scrapping your G4 ships, like just don't do it. You're not going to get anything of value out of it. So this is really going to help you if you are scrapping your G3 ships on a long enough timeline a little bit faster. It's plus 100%. There's other things that you'll get for it. You'll tier up your scrapyard. You got stuff in the outlaw trade that's going to help you. This one just doesn't seem very valuable to us. Augment favors an F for us because you're going to go ahead and max out those augments even without this thing at a pretty quick rate. It doesn't feel like that when you're in the middle of it, but you're going to go ahead and get there pretty soon, and then it just doesn't have any value for you whatsoever. The augment faction was great when it first came out. It's still okay, but there's not as much of a reason to go play around in there as there was before. But having this prime is not that important anymore. Cardassian loot is okay, but you're going to go ahead and pretty much get either Alliance reputation locked in a lot of cases or operations level locked in your tree. to not feel this overwhelming need to go grab as much Cardassian loot out of all those armadas as you can, you might switch back over to the Federation Klingon Romulan armada so that you can get more of the normal armada credits out of those as well if you are capped up. So this Cardassian loot, I don't think that has a lot of value for really most players at all. Cerritos cooldown, that's going to be an F for me. It's going to have the rate before you can use your Cerritos ability again. I have 2 Cerritoses for some reason. I almost never use both of them. The timer that it currently has, I'm pretty able to balance. If I wanted to buff 2 of these ships in an armada, I can pretty much buff both of those, even in a solo armada with the same Cerritos. Not really a lot of reason to pick this up and reduce the cooldown on it, especially because there's only a finite amount of Urvanite that you'll get at one point in time. So you just be burning through that a little bit faster with the lower cooldown. I don't really know why this exists, honestly. So enhanced analysis is going to require you to sacrifice some of your multiphasic credits that you have earned by purchasing something else in the game in order to actually research this, which makes it horrible as far as I'm concerned. I really don't recommend anybody pick this up. This shouldn't be something that is allowed to continue in the game. I hope they never follow this model again for a prime. By that same token, even if the Federation, Klingon, and Romulan tributes are some of the best things in the game later on down the road, the fact that they are multi-tiered is going to make them an F for me. I am fundamentally opposed to anything that is a multi-tiered prime in the game. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever to me. I don't like it. I'm going to go ahead and put those at the F tier. You can go ahead and tell me I'm wrong all day long in the comments below. You'll get prime hulls free to play pretty early on, and it's not really going to help you tremendously. Same thing with shields. It doesn't really do much, if anything. Your prime resources is a joke. You're really not going to get much out of those pumps at any point in time in the game. So the fact that you're going to get something out of them at double the rate really doesn't matter. Prime protection may not even work properly in the game. Even if it does, shield, and you'll not have to worry about people raiding you no matter what. So as long as you have good shield discipline, this really has no value at all. If you have bad shield discipline, this really has no value at all for you, because you're still going to be in a bad situation even if it does work. Prime siege warfare, prime station assault, and prime station damage all do pretty much the exact same thing. They're going to increase your damage against the station or against the defense platforms, which, as Deuce pointed out, those are the exact same thing. Your station doesn't have its own health. Your guns are what have the health. So the fact that they have anything different, that they kind of dress this up to be like it's anything other than what it is, these are the exact same things. Just 100% damage to your weapons in station combat while you're trying to raid somebody. Pop an 𝘂𝗶𝘁𝗵 for an hour or whatever, and you're going to get as much use, if not more so, from that. If you haven't cracked the base that you're trying to get into in an hour when that 𝘂𝗶𝗵 wears off, then you probably shouldn't have been trying to get into it for an hour in the first place. Has very little, if any, value to us. That's why it's the F tier. And prime tactical advantage is going to take you a while before you even get access to in the game. It's going to give you plus 100% weapon damage against everything not a player. So not only is it not just 100% weapon damage, which isn't that great anyways, but it's only going to affect your PvE targets, which, you know, a lot of people are going to be hitting those more than anything else anyways, but it's still just plus 100% at operations level 46 at the earliest to be able to pick it up. Not any value to us here. And there we go. We have managed to go ahead and rank every single one of the primes in the game as of November 2022. We will definitely be taking your feedback to go ahead and do another iteration of this, probably another month or two. Hopefully we'll probably put new primes in the game as well that we'll need to grade too. Go check out Deuce's video to see how he ranked these as well. Let us know who did a better job in your opinion in our comments section. There's the subscribe button in case you were wondering where it was. Our supporters are super amazing and help us do everything that we do here. Choose to live, my friends, and we'll see you again soon.